Welcome back to the Tour Breakaway. Tadej Pogacar, 2 times entered the Tour de France, 2 times champion of the Tour de France. The 22-year-old is an absolutely remarkable individual. 2 years, 2 races, 2 very different routes to a yellow jersey victory in Paris. I'm going to go through how he did it in 2020 and how he won the race in 2021. Before we get started, if you want to support the pod, go ahead, give a subscribe, give a like, and of course, leave a comment. Love to know your thoughts on this. Would greatly appreciate it. So 2020, Tadej Pogacar enters the Tour de France as what would be the youngest winner of the modern era if he was to do it, but wasn't a favorite. We've got Primož Roglic. We've got returning champion Egan Bernal. And it wasn't until stage 20, really, that Tadej put on the leader's jersey and everyone seemed shocked. But if you go back through it, and that's what we'll do now, is go back into how 2020 race unfolded, we'll see how Tadej Pogacar quietly charged his way to victory and how that was an extremely different race from what we saw here in 2021. Now, we'll just go back through the key moments of 2020. It all started on stage 4 for the first mountaintop finish, the Cisterone, and it was Roglic over Pogacar for the stage win. Now, Rogue wasn't in yellow yet, but we assumed he would be the eventual leader, as Adam Yates at that point was holding the yellow jersey, but would likely fall off. But in this moment, we had Tadej Pogacar sticking really close over the shoulder of Primož Roglic as what would then be the favorites for the general classification. Now, this is where Pog lost the Tour de France, but really won it. Okay, stage 7, the crosswind stage. A couple of the big GC guns got caught out. Mikel Landa, Tadej Pogacar, Richie Porte, Richie Carapaz. Tadej Pogacar was down nearly a minute and a half in 16th place following that stage 7 because they got caught back in the crosswinds. You'll see guys like Roglic. You saw Egan Bernal pulling at the front of the peloton, doing everything they could to extend that advantage. Continue on. And this is how the GC looked after 7. Roglic, Guillaume Martin, Egan Bernal, Tom Dumoulin, Nairo Quintana, Bardet, Miguel Angel Lopez, Thibaut Pinot, Rigoberto Urán. You had all the guys that you'd think, okay, that can be enough. Those are guys that we have to watch out for in the general classification. But with a minute 30 deficit, Pogacar went straight on the attack on stage 8, over the top in the stage to Loudon Vale. Now, that was a stage 1 by Nans Peters, but Pogacar was allowed to take back 40 seconds. He took back 40 seconds of that minute and a half deficit that he had. And he narrowed that gap to yellow to 48 seconds and narrowed his gap on Roglic to just 45 seconds. So already got half of that back, but still in a position where he doesn't need to do any defending because he's not even close to the lead on GC. So Pogacar continues again on stage 9, goes on the attack in the finale sprint with an escapee group that included Roglic, Mikel Landa, Egan Bernal, and they had caught Mark Hirschi on the final descent. Pogacar takes that stage win and now sat 7th place at 44 seconds back. Now stage 13, fast forward, that's where the GC really started to unravel. It was a stage for the breakaway on the Puy Mary, and Rog and Pog were the best of the GC bunch, going 1-2. Rog over Pog, but either way, what that meant was that Primož Roglic moves into the leader's jersey, and Tadej Pogacar, now in a defensible position and able to attack, 44 seconds back, but in 2nd place, moving up 5 seconds. Then we move to the areas that matter. Stage 16, the Grand Colombier. This is really the next chance for GC, and it was Tadej winning over Roglic in a bit of a sprint there at the end to take another 4 seconds, leaving that lead at just 40 seconds for Roglic. But Pogacar looking on equal, if not better terms than Roglic at this point. The next day, stage 17, the Col de la Loze, touted as the hardest climb in the Tour de France in some time and the queen stage of the 2020 Tour de France. An opportunity for Roglic to show his strength, along with being pulled through by his super domestique, Sepp Kuss. Now, this was a proper mountain stage. This one went to the best climber of of the week, which was Miguel Angel Lopez. He won the stage decisively, but it was Roglic putting a dent into Pogacar. And this is really the first time that we saw him directly through his own strength putting a dent into Pogacar. He had a lead of 30 seconds. By the time they got to the finish line, it was only 15. So Pog consolidated or lost 15 seconds to Roglic. Roglic holding a 57-second gap that was held until the stage 20 time trial on Planche de Belfi. Now, the Planche de Belfi, a unique time trial, a time trial that featured a categorized climb, 6 kilometers at 8.3%. That is some really steep stuff. We saw bike changes for all the riders, and times were tight. We had 6 guys within 5 minutes of Roglic as the leader, but we got accustomed to these times being really tight and not expecting big gains to happen. But Pogacar absolutely torched it, destroyed the field. He won over Tom Dumoulin by 1 minute and 21 seconds. Richie Porte, Wout van Aert 4th, and Primož Roglic all the way down in 5th, losing 1 minute and 56 seconds. And that was the undoing of the Tour de France. And so if you look at it and you see how this whole thing broke down in 2020, this was really Pogacar hiding in the background and quietly taking time on his way to victory. Pogacar losing 1 minute and 27 on the stage 7 crosswinds was probably the best thing that could have happened to him, because it quietly allowed him to show his strength through the rest of the Tour de France. Thereafter, the next day, taking 40 seconds back, taking 3 and 4 seconds on his other 2 stage wins on 9 and 16, and only conceding the 15 seconds to Roglic on Col de la Loze before finally taking that minute 56 on Planche de Belfi. All in all, the 2020 Tour de France was Pogacar's Tour de France, conveniently masked by 1.5 minutes lost in the crosswinds. And here, of course, the podium in Paris. Everyone shocked to not see Primož Roglic there in the middle. But when you look back at it, it was Tadej Pogacar who dominated the whole thing. Now, 2021 coming in, we know this is going to be a very different tour. Pogacar coming in as the favorite, and his UAE team needed to come off as a leadership team. Last year, they didn't support him much. It was really Pog being able to hide, mark moves, and then attack when he wanted to. His team didn't need to do the work. It was Jumbo-Visma was the strongest team in the peloton by a mile. But this year they staffed up. They brought strong riders in. They'd run McNulty for the first time. They added Mark Hirschi, climber Rafał Majka over from the Bora Hansgrohe squad to support. But how would it go? And how would the GC take shape this year, particularly with Ineos looking stronger than they did last year and many of the riders returning from Jumbo-Visma? So good news for Rog and Pog in the early stages. They were largely able to avoid the stage 1 and stage 2 crashes. And after stage 2, Pog found himself in a very different position than last year. Pogacar sat 3rd, just 13 seconds back, and he was behind Van der Poel and Alaphilippe, who were not expected to really contest for the GC. So the real threats were sitting just behind. Roglic just a second behind him. But already we see Pogacar further up on the GC and starting to set him up for what would be expected to be a team that needs to be in leadership position for Pogacar. Now, the stage 3 crashes would be of greater consequence. Enter Roglic in his mummy mode, and Pogacar fell back to 6th after getting caught up in some of the crashes. And it was Richie Carapaz moving into prime position in the GC behind Van der Poel and Alaphilippe. But we get to the stage 5 time trial, and Pog said, "Hello, boys, I'm here to win." Absolutely destroyed the field in the time trial. He put 27 seconds into who would become his biggest threat, Jonas Vingegaard. But as for the other threats, we begin to see the cracks in Primož Roglic losing 44 seconds. Richie Porte potentially as the rider for Ineos at 55, Lutsenko at 1 minute, and others further beyond there. So after just 5 stages, we see Pogacar establishing his lead against the main GC threats. Now, he didn't pull on the leader's jersey yet. Van der Poel did just enough to retain yellow jersey for another day. But when we get to stage 8, we start to see the big GC shakeups. Now, on the stage, it went to Dylan Teuns. This is a stage to Le Grand Bonnard, but they had to climb over the Colombier first. And Dylan Teuns, Yanni Zagir, Mike Woods were able to take a win, but a hard-charging Tadej Pogacar was able to put a lot of time into his foes and pull on the yellow jersey. Now, when you look at what that actually meant for the GC, Tadej takes a huge lead over his threats. Wout van Aert not expected to really contest for GC, sitting in minute 48, But Lysenko, who is the first threat for GC, back at 4:38. So effectively, at stage 8 with the leader's jersey on, we see Tadej Pogacar with a 4-minute advantage. Very impressive. And so stage 9 would be the first day that we really need to see, can the UAE squad be there for Tadej Pogacar when he needs them? And they absolutely answered the call. See here them pulling on stage 9 in the rain, in the bad conditions. UAE got to the front and were able to protect Pogacar exactly the way he needed to. Now, when we look into the details, were they able to take him as far as Jumbo-Visma squad was able to last year? Did they have certain individuals able to go as far into the mountains as even Jumbo-Visma this year? No. But by and large, they came of age. They supported Tadej when he needed them. And at the point where they peeled off, there was nobody else stronger than Tadej Pogacar to go the rest of the way. So, sitting after stage 9, we see another change up because Ben O'Connor was allowed to get into a break and jump all the way to second, but not expected to be a problem for Pogacar over the long term. So now we fast forward through the second rest day all the way to the Queen stages, 17 and 18, the Col de Portet and Luz Ardiden. 2 massive days of climbing, multiple Cat 1s and uncategorized climbs. Luz Ardiden featuring 2 horse category climbs in its own right. And Tadej, by the time it got to the point where everyone lost their domestiques, there was nobody stronger. And on stage 17, the only 2 guys that could go with Tadej Pogacar, Jonas Vingegaard, Richie Carapaz, and Tadej willing to work in yellow, even though he had over a 4-minute advantage over these guys, because he knew when it came to the line, he'd be able to take down the victory. And on stage 17, it was him winning in yellow on the Queen stage, shoulders in the clouds over Jonas Vingegaard and Richie Carapaz, and just stomping that he is not going to lose this Tour de France. Stage 18, more the same as expected. This day, a couple more riders able to hang on. Enric Mas in the works with them. But again, a 1-2-3 with Tadej winning back-to-back days in yellow over Vingegaard and Carapaz and solidifying a 5-minute and 20-second advantage heading into the time trial. So 2 totally different races. And in the final time trial here, a much flatter time trial and already a greater than 5-minute advantage, 5:45 went into the time trial. No stress. All he has to do is stay upright, and he's going to be wearing yellow into Paris. He rolled it in an 8th, absolutely no stress, and takes that 5-minute and 20-second advantage over Vingegaard to the Champs-Élysées and for the win. Richie Carapaz in 3rd at 7:03. So 2 totally different races, one from behind quietly stealing back time, and the other from the front where he took the jersey on the 8th stage and held it all the way to Paris with a little bit of defending, but very much on the offensive, attacking like we saw from as far as 8K to go. Something unheard of these days, where typically we see attacks 3K, 1K to go, but an absolutely fearless Tadej Pogacar and winning by the biggest margin since 2014. So that's how I saw it. That's how Tadej did it. Love to know what you think. Give a comment, write in, leave a review, and of course, most importantly, please subscribe. We're going to have more racing. We'll be back for the Vuelta, and we'll see if Tadej decides to, in fact, race the Vuelta in 2021, or if we'll see him go for a 3rd yellow jersey in a row in 2022. So till then, thanks for listening to the Tour Breakaway.